A Virtual Pilgrimage of the New Testament, Episode 9, Places of the Deaths and Burials of the Saints. Number 97. The Place of the Martyrdom and Relics of St. Mark the Evangelist. And Barnabas and Saul returned from Jerusalem when they had fulfilled their ministry. And they also took with them John, whose surname was Mark. Acts 12:24-25. St. Mark was not part of the 12 disciples, but was the author of the second gospel that bears his name. It is said that the gospel account was really Peter's eyewitness account that Mark wrote down for him. Mark, also known as John Mark, traveled with Paul and his cousin Barnabas on their first missionary journey to Cyprus and Asia Minor. Paul didn't want him on their later missionary trips, but Barnabas insisted that he stay with the team. So Barnabas and John Mark said goodbye to Paul and went together, and Paul went with Silas. Coptic Christians believe that St. Mark came to Alexandria in the year 49 AD and stayed among the Egyptian people, leading the churches, and was the first bishop of Alexandria until his martyrdom in 68 AD. He is honored as the founder of Christianity in Africa. Pagans in Alexandria were angry that Mark was turning the people away from the gods. They put a noose around his neck and dragged him through the streets of Alexandria until he was dead. His body was buried right on the grounds of St. Mark's Coptic Orthodox Cathedral. Number 98. The Place of the Burial of St. Mark the Evangelist's Relics. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces much grain. John 12:24. St. Mark was buried in Alexandria, Egypt, in the Church of St. Mark. However, in the year 828 AD, two Venetian merchants, helped by two Greek monks, took the bones of St. Mark, as the area was under the control of Islamic Abbasid Caliphate. They smuggled the bones of St. Mark out and hid them under a layer of pork meat and cabbage leaves. They brought the relics of St. Mark to Venice and then built the Basilica of St. Mark to house his relics. It is a fabulously richly decorated church, as the merchants of Venice were renowned for their wealth, and was nicknamed the Church of Gold. Now both churches in Alexandria and Venice now have the relics of St. Mark to remember the life of this amazing man of God, who was the Bishop of Alexandria and wrote the Gospel of Mark. Number 99. The place of the martyrdom of the Apostle Andrew. And when he had called his 12 disciples to him, he gave them power over unclean spirits to cast them out, and to heal all kinds of sickness and all kinds of disease. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these: first, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebbaeus, whose surname was Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. Matthew 10, 1-4. Andrew was the brother of Peter and the son of Jonah, and was from the town of Bethsaida. In the Gospel of John, Andrew is recorded as being the first disciple to be called, and who brought his brother to Jesus. According to Eusebius, after the ascension of Jesus, Andrew preached the gospel in Scythia, what is today southern Russia. As well, the Chronicle of Nestor from the 10th century stated that he preached the gospel along the Black Sea and the Dnieper River as far as Kiev. He became patron saint of Ukraine, Romania, Russia, and Scotland. According to tradition, he founded the See of Byzantium, modern-day Istanbul, in 38 AD. According to Hippolytus of Rome, Andrew preached in Thrace. As well, he went to Achaia and was finally crucified on an X-shaped cross in the city of Patras in Achaia in approximately 69 AD. Number 100. The place of the burial of the Apostle Andrew. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces much grain. John 12:24. According to tradition, the Apostle Andrew, brother of St. Peter, preached the gospel in the areas to the north of the Black Sea and in various parts of Greece. He went up the Dnieper River as far as Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. After years of fruitful ministry for the Lord Jesus, the proconsul of Achaia, Aegiates, came to Andrew at Patras, Greece. Aegiates came to put an end to the Christian movement in his province. He confronted Andrew and told him to abandon the superstitions about Jesus, which Rome had abolished, and that he'd never teach these things again or else face crucifixion. To this Andrew replied, I would not preach the honor and glory of the cross if I feared the death of the cross. With these words, St. Andrew sealed his fate. He was condemned by the proconsul. Upon seeing the cross, St. Andrew said, O cross, he declared, O cross, most welcome and long anticipated. I come to you with a willing mind, with joy and desire, since I am a follower and a student of the one who died on you. I have always loved you and sought to embrace you. Then Roman soldiers beat Andrew, then tied him to an X-shaped cross, where he survived for 4 whole days, preaching with a smile to a crowd of almost 20,000. Then he died, and his body was taken by Stratocles and Maximilla, a leading woman in Achaia, who prepared Andrew's body with spices and placed it in her own tomb. Today the relics of St. Andrew, including his skull, are in the Church of St. Andrew, Patras, Greece, along with the pieces of the cross on which he was crucified. This is a very important site for the Greek Orthodox believers, whose faith is fruit of the life of St. Andrew. Number 101. The place of the martyrdom of the Apostle Thomas. And when he had called his 12 disciples to him, he gave them power over unclean spirits to cast them out, and to heal all kinds of sickness and all kinds of disease. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these. First, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebbaeus, whose surname was Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. Matthew 10, 1-4. Thomas, also called Didymus, was famous among the apostles because he would not believe in the resurrection of Jesus without touching Jesus' side and hands. After seeing Jesus, he gave a declaration of the deity of Jesus by saying, "My Lord and my God." After traveling for years, possibly bringing the gospel to the Parthians, according to Origen, he came to India in 52 AD and landed at the port of Muziris, modern-day North Paravur, Kerala, India, and there was a synagogue of the Jews. Thomas spent 10 years in Kerala state, establishing 7 churches, then went to Mylapore in Chennai, Tamil Nadu. According to the Acts of St. Thomas, the kingdom of Mazdai in the southern India was ruled by King Mizdius. The king was infuriated when St. Thomas converted his wife, Queen Tertia, son Juzanes, sister-in-law, and her friend Marcia. Mizdius led St. Thomas outside the city and ordered 4 soldiers to take him to a nearby hill, where the soldiers speared St. Thomas and killed him in 72 AD. Altogether, his mission to India lasted 20 years, and many people were brought to Christ. Number 102. The tomb of the Apostle Thomas. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces much grain. John 12:24. The Apostle Thomas, also called Didymus, the twin, founded 7.5 churches in Kerala, a state on the west coast of India. He was killed by order of King Mizdius, and his body was buried in Chennai in the 1st century in the place where the San Thomas Cathedral Basilica stands today. In the 10th century AD, a group of Christians from Persia founded the village of San Thomas and built a church around the site of his grave. However, the structure fell into disrepair in the 14th to 15th centuries. Then, in 1522, Portuguese Christians moved the apostles' remains to a new tomb and church in the same general area. Now, the San Tome Church is called a basilica and is a place of pilgrimage for many Indian Christians. Number 103. The place of the martyrdom and burial of the Apostle Thaddeus. And when he had called his 12 disciples to him, he gave them power over unclean spirits to cast them out, and to heal all kinds of sickness and all kinds of disease. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these. First, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebbaeus, whose surname was Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. Matthew 10, 1-4. Lebbaeus Thaddeus was a disciple who is also identified as Jude by many traditions. According to Armenian tradition, the apostles Thaddeus and Bartholomew came to Armenia in 45 AD to bring the gospel to its people in present-day Iran. The ancient Christian historian Moses of Korin recounts that Thaddeus converted King Abgar V of Edessa. After his death, the Armenian kingdom was split into two parts. His son Ananun crowned himself in Edessa, while his nephew Senatruk ruled in Armenia. About AD 66, Ananun gave the order to kill Saint Thaddeus in Edessa by club. The king's daughter, Sendukt, who had converted to Christianity, was also martyred with Thaddeus. The place of martyrdom and burial is at Kare Kalisa, Iran. Later, a church was built near his grave, which many say is the oldest lasting church structure in the world. The present structure dates from the early 19th century, around a 13th century building that was built upon an older structure going back to the 1st century. Thousands of Christians gather annually near the church to worship and remember the life of Saint Thaddeus, or Jude, the patron saint of Iran and the Armenians. He is also known as the patron saint of lost causes. Number 104. The place of the martyrdom of the Apostle Simon the Zealot. And when he had called his 12 disciples to him, he gave them power over unclean spirits to cast them out, and to heal all kinds of sickness and all kinds of disease. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these. First, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebbaeus, whose surname was Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. Matthew 10, 1-4. Simon the Zealot was a disciple of Jesus Christ who was either zealous for God with a strong fervor, or could have been part of a group called the Canaanim, who were zealous for the law of Moses. There is not much else written about Simon the Zealot in the New Testament. The Fox's Book of Martyrs from the 16th century maintains that Simon preached the gospel in Mauritania, Africa, and Britain, possibly Glastonbury, and holds that Simon was martyred in Britain, possibly in Caistor, Lincolnshire, England. Ethiopian Christians believe that he was crucified in Samaria. Justus Lipsius of the 16th century AD claimed that he was sawn in half longitudinally in Suanir, Persia. However, the oldest account is from Moses of Korin in the 5th century AD. He wrote that he was stoned to death at Weriosphora in the Caucasian Iberia at the church of New Athos in Georgia. The site of his martyrdom by Orthodox tradition was the Psirju River near the St. Simon the Canaanite church. Next to the river are stones with red coloration, where legend has it that Simon the Canaanite's blood became infused in the rocks. Pilgrims come and often take stones at the site for blessing and are baptized in the river. Saint Simon is buried within the monastery of Saint Simon the Canaanite in New Athos, Abskarieva, Georgia. Relics of Saint Simon are also found in St. Peter's Basilica, Rome. Number 105. The burial place of the Apostle Simon the Zealot. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces much grain. John 12:24. The site of the martyrdom of Saint Simon the Canaanite by Orthodox tradition was the Pasirju River near Saint Simon the Canaanite Church. Next to the river are stones with red coloration where legend has it that Saint Simon the Canaanite's blood became infused in the rocks. Pilgrims come and often take stones at the site for blessing and are baptized in the river. Saint Simon is buried within the monastery of Saint Simon the Canaanite in New Athos, Abskaya, Georgia. Relics of Saint Simon are also found in St. Peter's Basilica, Rome. Christians in Georgia are the fruit of the life and death of the Apostle Simon the Canaanite. Number 106. The place of the martyrdom of the Apostle Matthias. And they proposed two, Joseph called Barsabas, who was surnamed Justus, and Matthias. And they prayed and said, You, O Lord, who know the hearts of all, show which of these two you have chosen to take part in this ministry and apostleship, from which Judas by transgression fell, that he might go to his own place. And they cast their lots, and the lot fell on Matthias, and he was numbered with the 11 apostles. Acts 1:23-26. Matthias was chosen by the apostles to replace Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus and then committed suicide. Greek tradition states that Matthias planted the faith near Cappadocia, modern-day central Turkey, and on the coasts of the Caspian Sea. According to church historian Nicephorus, Matthias first preached the gospel in Judea, then in Ethiopia, modern-day Georgia, and was taken to the Gonio fortress, tortured, then martyred somewhere on these grounds. The grave of St. Matthias is located in the fortress of Gonio in modern-day Georgia. Excavations of the site are not permitted at present. Number 107. The burial place of the Apostle Matthias. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces much grain. John 12:24. The initial grave of St. Matthias is located in the fortress of Gonio in modern-day Georgia. Excavations of the site are not permitted at present. In the 4th century, the Empress Helena, mother of Constantine the Great, is said to have brought the bones of St. Matthias out of the grave and brought them to Trier, Germany, where they were interred in the Abbey of St. Matthias. The church has been given the status of a basilica minor, and German pilgrims make the trip to be near the remains of the apostle who replaced Judas as one of the 12 followers of Jesus Christ. Number 108. The place of the martyrdom and initial tomb of the Apostle Philip. And when he had called his 12 disciples to him, he gave them power over unclean spirits to cast them out, and to heal all kinds of sickness and all kinds of disease. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these: first, Simon, who was called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebbaeus, whose surname was Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. Matthew 10, 1-4. Philip came from the town of Bethsaida, as did Peter and Andrew. He was the one who introduced Nathanael to Jesus. He also asked Jesus how to feed 5,000 people, and asked Jesus to show him the Father in the upper room. He is not to be confused with Philip the evangelist. After the ascension of Jesus, some histories record that Philip, his sister Mariamne, and Bartholomew brought the gospel to Greece, Phrygia, and Syria. In the Acts of Philip, we read that Philip was martyred at Hierapolis in modern-day Turkey. In this account, we read that through a miraculous healing, the wife of the proconsul of Hierapolis believed. This enraged the proconsul, who had Philip, Bartholomew, and Mariamne all tortured. Philip and Bartholomew were then crucified upside down, and Philip preached from his cross. As a result of his preaching, the crowd released Bartholomew from his cross, but Philip insisted that they not release him, so he died as a result of crucifixion in 80 AD. During the 6th century, the bones of Philip were transferred to Rome. Now St. Philip's bones are in the crypt within the church of Santi Apostoli in Rome, Italy.